So hello everyone, welcome to EduTap. I am Surbhi and here we are at Perspective 360 Degree, that is your one-stop solution for current affairs, descriptive writing and answer writing evaluation. First of all, if the audio is clear, then kindly let me know in the chat section. And I'm still setting the screen with you guys, so just give me a moment. Alright, so there we are with the laser pointer. Okay, I hope there is no delay in the audio and video that you're seeing. I hope the slide is clear and you can see me properly. Dhruv, hello. Pratul Shekhar, good evening. Hello, Anshu. So no delay, guys. No problem with the internet. Nothing. Everything all clear. So I'm waiting for your responses. Okay, by that time, okay, good evening, Madhu. All right, thank you, Anshu. Thank you for clearing. Pratul Shekhar, thank you for clearing. So the topic that we are covering today is minimum support price. For those of you who are joining me for the first time, let me just tell you that Perspective 360 Degree is an initiative of EduTap that is free of cost and which is aimed at helping you for developing descriptive writing skills. If you're preparing for regulatory bodies examinations or any other exams, and one of the parts of your syllabus is answer writing or descriptive writing, and the previous year papers indicate that a lot of topics have been asked from current affairs, then Perspective 360 Degree is the series for you. It's the solution for you. We take a question answer approach, that is we write an answer to the topic under discussion, which is mostly from current affairs or something from current affairs which finds relevance from the static portion also, as is the topic today. So MSP, minimum support price, is also a part of the static part of your syllabus, but today we are looking at the current aspect of it, or what question can be asked from current affairs. Not just this, after watching this lecture, you get the PDF for the entire content on our Telegram channel the next day. In the next 48 hours after the display of this lecture, you can actually practice answer writing with us. And how can you do that? Try to write your own answer on today's question. Post it in the comment section under this video, and our team will evaluate it and provide you with a comprehensive feedback entirely free of cost within the next 48 hours itself. Alright, so that's how it proceeds. And we are at day 71 of Perspective 360 Degree, and there are many topics, 70 topics, which might have become older, but I request you that you join the playlist of Perspective 360 on our YouTube channel. Just go to the playlist tab and you will find it in one of the first playlist on the channel. Join it, look for more topics which are relevant from your exam point of view. Even if you're appearing next year or any time in future, these topics will definitely help you clear your concepts of various subjects, various topics. So kindly refer to them. For today, the people who are joining me, there are two topics that we've already done on Perspective 360 Degree, and after finishing this class, I want you to look at those topics also, so that you're able to revise related content side by side. The first one, kindly note down, is agricultural export policy, that was covered on day 59. Day 59, guys, kindly take a note. The second one is day 63, food subsidies. The topic is, why does the West oppose India at WTO, at World Trade Organization? Why is India's subsidy regime opposed by the Western nations? That is day 63. Kindly refer to that topic after this one. So we'll be looking a great deal at WTO also, and how MSP and other things are related. We'll be looking at all of these. First of all, you all know that farmer protests are going on in northern parts of the country, and they're taking they're taking hold in other parts of the country as well. And just to inform you that farmer protests are not just going on in India, they have been erupting for the past few years in many parts of the world. Agriculture, which was very remunerative before, is not as remunerative or profitable as it used to be. So farmers all over the world, they're protesting because of one or the other reason, especially due to the upcoming of GM crops, or genetically modified crops, and secondly because of climate change. Climate change impacts agriculture very, very badly, and when agriculture output gets impacted, who gets impacted first? It's the farmers, and hence when they want their their side of the story to be heard. They take they request the government, and when the government doesn't listen to their demands, they move out in protest. So we'll also look at some of the sides of the protest that is going on in India. What are the demands? Are they legitimate, or what are the political reasons behind? We'll look at all the sides. But first of all, I want to bring you to few of the headlines from MSP to debt waivers. A look at why farmers have been protesting in Delhi all over the years. This is from Indian Express, and I recommend that if Indian agriculture is part of this, if is a part of your syllabus, then Indian Express gives really good coverage. The other magazine, Indian Express is a newspaper. The other magazine that gives a good coverage regarding environment and agriculture is Down to Earth. So you can refer to some of the articles from these two sources. But we have summarized all of these for you today. So Dr. Ashok Gulati, he writes regularly for Indian Express, and he talks about farmers and Indian agriculture. So he writes on farmers' protest. Policies favor the consumer, not the producer. That's what he has highlighted. Then explain speaking has been covered. Beyond MSPs and protests, some basic facts about Indian farmers. This is again from February 22. So all the recent newspapers are talking about farm protest, and these are some of the demands, some of the major demands. Basically, farmers have brought out 12 demands majorly. But we are covering only the important ones here. So the important demands have been covered, and one of the demands that you will see here is with respect to minimum support price, and that is very, very important for our exam. Nobody is going to ask us what are the 12 demands of agriculture product, this farmer protest. No one is going to frame a descriptive or an objective question on that. That's what we need to focus on is what are the demands and why are they brought up, and the technical details, the technical reasons behind them. So the first one is farmers are calling for passage of legislation guaranteeing MSP of all crops. That means right now MSP is at the discretion of government. Minimum support price, that is announced twice a year, that is at the discretion of government, before the Rabi season and before the Kharif season. It depends on government whether government announces it or not. Now the farmers want that there should be a law, and farmers should have the right to MSP. There should be a law that guarantees that MSP will definitely be announced no matter what the situation is, no matter what government is. And they're also demanding MSP. What should be the price of MSP? That should be determined on the basis of recommendations of Swaminathan Commission. So we'll be looking at all these details. The second demand here is a complete waiver of all debt for both laborers and farmers. That means all loans should be forsaken. So that's very clear. Justice in Lakhimpur Kheri tragedy, that is the previous farm protest. It saw deaths of many of the people. So all those people they should be given justice, and their families should be compensated. Then reintroduce Land Acquisition Act of 2013 nationwide. I will try to take this topic separately. What is Land Acquisition Act of 2013? So Land Acquisition Act was amended in 2015, and according to the amendment, land can be acquired if it is required for infrastructure development, if it is required for defense, if it is required for 5 main categories which the government identified. So now land acquisition is not a positive thing or a positive news for anyone. Let's suppose that you are staying, let's say you call a place as your home, or you say that your ancestors have been sowing a particular area of land for like generations. Now the government decides that a bridge has to be built there. So it's not a happy situation for anyone if the land is acquired. So that money, how much has to be paid for that acquired land, how much money has to be paid to you, that also gets decided by the government based on market standards and the losses that people will be incurring as a result of rehabilitation, because you'll have to move to another land. So a new act was brought in, or the previous one was amended in 2015. So farmers are against this because they feel that it will harm their agricultural produce if their lands get acquired for reasons which the government doesn't even have to justify. So there are 5 reasons in this act. We'll take a separate topic on this. Withdrawal of cases against protesters involved in the previous farmer protest, and exit World Trade Organization. This is again an important issue. Why are farmers demanding to exit World Trade Organization from the government of India and forbid free trade agreements? If you are aware, then there was this RCEP, Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, that India was previously a part of, but then India, abstained from it. India just exited out of it. Also, India has had a lot of disputes at WTO regarding the subsidies it is providing its farmers. That's why I told you, after this video, go back to day 63 where we talked about WTO subsidies, especially the amber box subsidies. So now the farmers are clearly demanding that instead of reducing our MSP and our subsidies, the government should instead exit out of WTO, because WTO is not benefiting Indian farmers, or it is not the WTO as an organization does not understand the situation, the grounds reality at India. In India, especially when it comes to agriculture. So these are the broad demands. Today we are focusing on the first demand, and we'll be talking a lot about MSP, and the question will be with regards to that. First of all, if I have to look at relevance of this topic from RBI Grade B perspective, you have as part of economic and social issues, which is paper 1 of your syllabus, you have the topic Indian agriculture mentioned separately. Then for NABARD Grade A, agriculture has a lot of subtopics in your syllabus. So this particular question is going to be very important for you. Same economic and social issues, that is paper 2 in NABARD Grade A. That's where agriculture, characteristics, technical and institutional changes, and performance issues of food security, they lie in your syllabus. Alright. Then for SEBI Grade A, agriculture is not that relevant, but since this topic is in current affairs, hence for English writing skills, this can be relevant for you. So now first look at the expected question. And okay, so isn't it similar to the last topic about WTO and subsidy to agri sector? No, Kritika, not at all. You require basic knowledge of what WTO subsidies are, but it is not at all similar. That's why I'm referring to those topics. So now let's look at the expected question. And today we have kept the statement of the question very long so that we can prepare you for any type of question that is being asked. Also, I would suggest that don't feel scared when a long question is asked. Just read it completely. Mostly, the longer the question, the easier it is to understand and the easier it is to answer. So similar is the case with today's question as well. I'll read this out for you. By that time, try to understand it with me side by side. We'll also underline keywords and frame micro questions out of it. And we'll understand how to divide the content that we know about this topic into various parts of the answer and how to frame a good answer on this. So MSP guarantee law to provide a legal guarantee for MSP for all crops is the headline demand out of the 12-point demands of the recent farmer protest. So this is a statement. There is no question that appears here. It's a very straightforward statement which says that MSP law is one of the 12 demands, 12 headline demands of the recent farmer protest. So also the farmers have demanded that MSP be fixed according to Dr. Swaminathan Commission report. So they're talking in detail about MSP, that not just there should be a law on MSP, but MSP should be fixed based on this commission's report. So what is special about MSP that is coming from Dr. M.S. Swaminathan Commission report? In light of the above, examine the pros and cons of the implementation of current demands with respect to MSP. So as you can see, the question that we can see is only in the last one line. The first two lines do not have any question. They are just statements and they might make you feel scared, or you might be bombarded with information that is not even required. In this case, the information is very much required. The question has to be answered in 600 words. And as you can see in the last part of the question, there are two parts to it. In light of the above, examine the pros and cons. Cons of what? Of the implementation of current demands with respect to MSP. That means if MSP guarantee law and MSP according to this particular commission is brought into implementation, that what are the pros and cons of bringing such a law? What are the advantages and disadvantages of bringing in such a law? So that is what our question is saying. So the question is pretty easy here. Now a lot of you would see that a lot of information is mentioned in the first two sentences itself. As I always recommend, don't use the same words or don't use the same sentences in your answer. So nobody has to copy what is written in the question. You don't have to copy what is written in the question. Use your own words, even if implication is the same, even if meaning is the same. So don't use, just don't copy paste the lines, even if you don't have something else to write. Now, first of all, what is the topic that is under discussion? Why am I asking you this? Because that introduction is a light conversation with the examiner, in which we start with focus on the topic or theme. So in this case, everything that is being talked about is MSP law, and the recent farmer protest. And the commission name is also mentioned. So what you can do at your best is give an overview of MSP. In this case, you can talk about definition. You can talk about who recommends MSP, who implements MSP, who carries out procurement at minimum support price, and you can also talk about how much MSP is currently being recommended by the government. Is it based on this commission report or not? If not, then why? Alright, so all the basic information or the background information should be fitted in the introduction itself. That will make the rest of the answer also easy to write. Otherwise, let's say you're talking about some formula of calculating MSP in the later part of your answer. So the examiner or any reader will not be able to understand it. So that's the purpose of our introduction, to give out the basic facts. So that will be taken in the introduction, overview of MSP. Then we'll move on to answering the question, that is examine the pros and cons if this law gets implemented. Then advantages of MSP law, disadvantages of MSP law, body part 2, and in the conclusion we'll end up with a way forward. So I hope there is clarity till this point. Good evening, Sehaj. If you have any additions to make or any doubts still here, then kindly let me know in the chat section. And then we'll proceed ahead with understanding today's concept and with writing the answer. All right. So, ma'am, can you please make content on FPOs? Okay, I'll look at the topic if that's important. Then we'll take that in one of the discussions next week. So, alright guys, I hope you also remember that the previous farm protests that were held, last time, few years back, they were against 3 laws that were brought in by the government. So the government 1 year later, because of the farmer protest, the government repealed all the 3 laws. So now, and the government also promised some of the measures that will be taken from the government side to promote welfare of farmers. So farmers were not happy with what government was doing. Whatever committees were formed, farmers were not made a part of it, and farmers were not benefiting out of it. Hence, this second farmer protest has been launched, and one of the demands is this MSP guarantee law, and we are looking at this from our exam point of view. Alright, Kshitij, so guys, let's move ahead. Let's look at introduction. So first of all, let's talk about MSP. What is minimum support price? So now you know that farmers, they produce crops. Now, if anything goes wrong, let's say inflation is on the rise, or the demand for crops is not as high as it was presumed by a farmer is growing wheat, rice, or pulses, anything like that, but after the harvesting is over, the farmer goes to the market to sell his crops, and demand is not there. Demand for that particular crop is not there. So what happens in that case? The farmer might have to come back to his home without selling his produce, and hence the entire season's hard work of that farmer, of his family, that gets wasted. So to prevent such a situation, and to protect farmers from such uncertainties, and also to ensure food security in the country, the government takes a very very good approach at the beginning of sowing cycle. Whenever there is beginning of the season, that time MSP is announced, minimum support price. So this is meant for supporting the farmers, and this is minimum, means that government will buy your products or buy your produce at this rate, and this is the minimum rate at which government will buy. Government can buy at a higher rate also, or you can sell it at a higher rate also, but this is the minimum rate that you will get. And what is that minimum rate? Who decides it? The government itself decides it. And you have to remember that the government does not decide it after the harvesting has happened. It decides it at the beginning of sowing cycle, at the beginning of season. And so we have 2 major seasons in the country. So MSP is announced 2 times in a year. And is it announced for all the crops? The answer is no. It is announced for approximately 22 crops in the country, and for sugarcane we have a separate FRP, which is not known as MSP. So almost 22 crops are secured by government's guarantee that if you bring these crops to us, then we will buy it from you. So first of all, it should be very clear to us what is MSP. So start our introduction by writing the definition of MSP. Here we are framing a definition that the minimum support price for a commodity, it refers to the price at which government is obligated, because government has promised to purchase the produce from farmers in the event that the market price falls below this threshold. Either the market price is below that, for example, if the farmer wants to sell one bag of food grains at 100 rupees per kg, because that was MSP. But now when he goes to the market, he's getting just 80 rupees per kg for that. So the farmer can instead go to the government and sell it at 100 rupees per kg, because that price has been promised by the government. So it benefits the farmer, and it also acts as a guarantee so that he can without any stress carry out that cropping cycle and can produce the crops. So the government is obligated to purchase the produce from farmers in the event that the market price falls below this threshold. Now, who decides a minimum support price? There is a Commission for Agriculture Cost and Prices. So there is this Commission for Agriculture Cost and Prices. It looks at what is the input cost of a farmer. Basically, the aim of government is that at least the cost that the farmer is incurring to produce those crops, that should be compensated, and some extra money should also be given to the farmer so that he is able to run his family, and agriculture is actually profitable for him. Sowing the crops, harvesting the crops, the entire cycle is actually profitable for him. So MSP is not kept very high and it is not kept too low as well. So MSP is based on the recommendations of CACP, that is Commission for Agricultural Cost and Prices. The CACP, it actually submits its recommendations to the government in the form of price policy reports every year. So according to the production cost of a farmer, the CACP keeps on changing the MSP every year or for every season, and various factors are taken into consideration. For example, cost of production, demand and supply, market price trends, intercrop price parity. If market prices are high, then MSP also has to be high so that the farmers do sell to the government. And why do the government wants that farmers should sell the crops to them? Because government is obligated to provide free ration or subsidized food grains to how much? 67% of Indian population under National Food Security Act. So it is not just required for farmers to avail the benefit of MSP, it is also required by the government under National Food Security Act to feed the population of our country, to feed the 67% population of our country, which is covered by NFSA for subsidized food grains. So it is a mutual approach. So the government actually, based on demand and supply on the market and the market prices, CACP recommends MSP from year to year. Now this report goes to Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs, which is the final authority who has to decide that MSP will be, what will be the price of MSP and for how many crops. So the Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs, it is chaired by Prime Minister. The Prime Minister is head. So look at how important MSP is, how important agriculture and food security is for your country, that the final nod is given by a committee that is chaired by the Prime Minister himself. So that committee takes the final decision on the level of MSP after considering the price policy report, views of state governments. Why state governments are considered? Because agriculture is a state subject, and overall demand supply situation of the country. Finally, now MSP is announced, MSP has been decided. Now somebody has to go to the farmers or be in linkage with the farmers to procure those food grains. Now the central government cannot go everywhere. So who is present at the local level for procurement? It's the state government, and agriculture is a state subject. So Food Corporation Organization, with the help of various state government agencies, carries out procurement, and this is where the problem lies. So FCI is the nodal agency in your country for procurement of food grains. Let's say for 22 crops MSP has been announced. So those food grains, technically they should be procured at MSP. The farmer should be able to sell them at that minimum price. So along with state agencies at the beginning of sowing season. So finally, government fixes MSP for 22 mandated agricultural crops and FRP for sugarcane. You can refer to your static notes for what is FRP. Sugarcane operates very differently, hence MSP is not announced. It is based on the cyclic approach of what you benefit out of the sugarcane's cropping cycle. So for that, FRP is announced. So now this is the basic overview that we have given about MSP, how it is announced, who announces it, who procures food grains under MSP. Now the question here is, how is MSP determined? Who decides how much MSP should be there for a particular crop, and what is the cost involved, and how much should the farmers be benefiting out of it? So basically, when a farmer produces a crop, there are a lot of costs involved. So let's start with the first cost that we will categorize as A2. So A2 is basically all the input costs. For example, buying seeds, buying fertilizers, buying all the inventory that a farmer requires to to sow the crops, to grow the crops. The second one is A2 plus FL. In this, A2 is included fertilizers, labor, fuel, everything, irrigation charges, they were all included in A2. FL stands for family labor. So there are many family members who are a part of disguised in employment in agriculture. They don't get paid anything out of agriculture, but because it is their family land, hence they provide with their services to carry out that cropping and to to produce crops for their own family. So family labor also, that is also accounted. That becomes A2 plus FL. So actual cost plus an imputed value of unpaid family labor. Now this is at A2 plus FL. This is where CACP currently stops. CACP basically refers to A2 plus FL for the cost of return. So MSP is basically fixed at 50% over A2 plus FL cost. So let's say A2 plus FL is 100 rupees. So what is 50% of 100 rupees? That is 50. So add 100 plus 50, that becomes 150 rupees. So 150 will be the MSP for that quantity of crop. So A2 plus FL, if it is 100, that is taken into account. So A2 plus FL, that has to be given back to the farmer. 100 rupees was the cost of the farmer, and 50% over that, that means 50 extra rupees on every 100 rupees, that has to be given to the farmer. So what is the profit for farmer in that A2 plus FL method of CACP? That is 50 rupees or 50%. So CACP's approach looks to be, very much good, but farmers say that this approach, that does not calculate the entire costs that are involved, and hence we are not benefiting out of this. So MS Swaminathan Commission, which submitted its report in 2006, that recommended there is something called C2 also. C2 means if you are using your land to sow crops only, and you could have incurred any other revenue from that own land and fixed capital assets, some other benefits could also have been there. But since farmers are supporting agriculture of the country, hence more, there should be a C2 formula which takes into account A2 plus FL plus a fixed rate of interest on the land that is getting used and that is probably decreasing in nutritious value over a span of time. So an additional cost was also taken into account, and based on C2 cost, a higher 50% should be given to the farmer. So this commission recommended at least 50% more than the weighted average cost of production, that is 50% higher than C2. C2 plus 50%, that should how be MSP fixed. Right now it is fixed at A2 plus FL. So farmers are demanding C2 plus 50%. So that is this is the formula suggested, and this is what the demand of farmers is, and that's where all the issue arises. So now we're moving to the let's delve deeper section, where we have to see what will be the advantages if this MSP law, first of all legalizing MSP, second implementing MS Swaminathan Commission's recommendations on MSP. What happens if this law is brought into picture? What will be the advantages? Then in the body part 2, we'll look at the disadvantages. If you have any doubts, then kindly let me know in the chat section. We are running out of time, so I'll not stop completely to take the doubts here, but I'll definitely address them side by side. Yes, FCI stores such food grains, absolutely, Kshitij, and not just FCI, there are many godowns of state governments also. FCI is the nodal agency, that means the central government's agency is FCI, but it collaborates with other state governments also for storage, for procurement and storage of food grains in various warehouses. FCI cannot handle it alone. Alright, so moving at advantages of MSP law, and here we have 6 advantages. We'll write very short lines for them, and since we have to finish our answer in 600 words itself. So the first one is financial security. Who will get financial security if this law is implemented? Obviously the farmers. So legally guaranteed MSP would ensure farmers fixed remunerations by financially securing them against the vagaries of price instability in the market. So now if legal guarantee of MSP is there, then definitely financial security is going to be there for farmers. Then risk cover. What is going to be the risk cover? If the crops fail in certain cases because of climate change, pest attacks, and crop diseases, then under this law, those crops will also be covered. Then promotion of crop diversification. How will it promote crop diversification? This is something that every student talks to me about it, but nobody can justify. So how does it lead to crop diversification if MSP is given? MSP is already announced on 22 crops. Still, crop diversification is not happening in the country. And the issue lies, which I told you in the previous slides, that who procures who is procuring the food grains? It is the state government along with FCI. It's not the central government that is procuring food grains. So let's say MSP is announced by CCEA, who's chaired by Prime Minister. MSP has been announced today, but when it is the time of procurement, then the state governments have the say. State governments are also denying procurement of certain crops. For example, MSP is announced for 22 crops, and one of the farmer grows a crop out of these 22 crops, but many a times these state governments do not procure these crops at all. So the farmers, they actually fight that MSP was announced, but MSP is not compulsory to implement, because agriculture is a state subject. Hence the central government cannot give binding instructions. So state governments do not procure all the crops. What are the crops which are being procured highly? The crops which are mandatory for the state government to acquire through law? No, they are mandatory because they have to give free food grains or subsidized food grains in the form of PDS, public distribution system, under NFSA. So what are the food grains provided? Mostly wheat, rice, some of the pulses. Recently, millets have been included in some of the states, so they are procuring them also. Otherwise, wheat and rice stay as the highly procured crop. So when MSP becomes legalized, state governments will be actually obliged to carry out procurement of all the 22 crops for which MSP is announced, and hence it will promote crop diversification in the country. Recently, right now, we are struggling with crop diversification. Our palette has been mostly composed of wheat and rice in all parts of the country. So this is what defines the current situation, that farmers are motivated to grow only the crops for which procurement is happening on ground. And if this becomes a law, then they will be incentivized to grow all kinds of crops, and because of diversification, less water intensive crops like pulses and millets rather than just rice and wheat, they can be grown. Then there is base mark or benchmark price, which protects farmers from any market shocks, any inflation. So it ensures that the market prices will not be drastically lower than MSP. So the market prices also, if somebody wants to buy food grains to sell off in the market, then they have to match up with the MSP price. Right now, MSP is not compulsory. So farmers are at the receiving end of all the loopholes that are there with our system. Then solution to rural economic distress, we always say that India has two parts. There is India and then there is Bharat, which lives in poverty, which lives in illiteracy. So the best way for rural economic distress is, to infuse more money to make agriculture more remunerative. So MSP can help in injecting financial resources into the rural sector if it is fixed at the prices recommended by the Swaminathan Committee or the Swaminathan Commission. And this becomes very important in the wake of the shocks of demonetization, which are still present in rural India, and COVID-19. Then there are right to farmers, so right to MSP, that will become the new normal. So recently, not recently, but there was this Shanta Kumar committee around 2015-16, which said that only 6% of the farm households are able to sell wheat and rice to the government at MSP rates, because first of all, whatever state mandis are there where procurement is occurring, that is so far away that farmers feel that we should sell our crops to some local mandis only, or to local traders only. So they don't take it to those mandis where they can sell it at MSP. So only 6% farmers or farm households are benefiting out of MSP currently, which was a report, which was the data given to us by Shanta Kumar report. So it also gave a lot of recommendations on how to bring changes in the MSP regime. So MSP law could give legal rights to the farmers to sell their produce to government agencies like FCI at MSP in case they fail to commensurate prices from the market. Now this will become a law if it becomes a law. So these are all the pros or advantages for the farmers that follow. Now coming to the disadvantages, the first issue is that it is going to be very expensive for the government. taxpayers' money, it's going to the farmers, so it's going to be, it's going to be very expensive for the government. Secondly, it might push the prices of food grains high, and this is the case that we see in most developed countries also. Food is very costly, and looking at the poverty levels in our country, we cannot afford high inflation when it comes to food grains. Third, and the major issue here, is the WTO. WTO categorizes MSP under the amber box or amber box subsidies, due to which India can give subsidies only up to 10% of agriculture produce. That too according to the produce that it was showing in 1985, not according to the recent produce, which is higher than before. So 10% upper limit is there, and according to amber box subsidy rule, that subsidy has to be brought down. If we implement the recent demands of, or MSP law is implemented, then WTO is definitely going to hit back. The Western countries are definitely going to hit back. And also, food grains might become costly in the international market also, and then Indian agricultural exports will suffer, because right now India has a benefit of exporting agricultural products because they are available at cheaper rates in the global market. So that might not be the case in future. So the first one is huge fiscal burden on government. So it could increase the fiscal deficit of government and will have deleterious effects on the economy. And there is an estimate, you can always refer to estimates, but make sure that you have read them somewhere, some good newspaper, or some static source which is very authentic that you're following. So according to an estimate, rupees 5 trillion would be required for implementation of MSP law. The second is risk of undervaluation of crops with low yields. That means the production pattern. Now, the case with some of the crops is not that just MSP procurement is there, or procurement at MSP is there. Some of the crops, they give a lot of yield. So the more yield you have, the more you can sell to the government. Okay, so the farmers might focus on crops which give more yield, and these are the crops like, farmers could grow cotton. Cotton requires a lot of water. Instead of millets, in the for example, this is an example of the Marathwada region, where cotton is grown instead of millets. Millets can grow without water also, or with very less water also. So in drought prone regions, people, just to make more money, might be shifting to such crops which cannot be supported by the environmental situation of our country. Then rise in food inflation, this is something that I have explained. So higher procurement costs will lead to higher prices of food grains, because somewhere the money has to be matched up. So it will eventually impact the lower middle class and the poor. Then if the adverse impact of India's farm exports, because they will become expensive. Then violation of WTO subsidies principle. This we have seen multiple times during the course of this discussion. Just remember that MSP comes under amber box subsidies, and they have to be brought down with time. Then storage and disposal problems. We always say that food grains are rotting down in warehouses of our country. We do not have good cold storage facilities in the country, and a lot of food grains, they get wasted on an annual basis. And on the other hand, our population is grappling with hunger and malnutrition. So storage and disposal problems, they will definitely increase, because right now procurement is lower as compared to what it will be after MSP law is implemented. Obviously, it's not a very positive reason to give, but before the MSP law gets implemented, the government has to plan for a good infrastructure also, where all these food grains which get procured can be stored. So MSP guarantee will create storage and disposal problems for crops such as Niger seed, sesamum or safflower, which will have a few takers through the PDS system. And where will the government sell all these? And right now infrastructure is not there. So finally, what we have is a conclusion, or in the conclusion, instead of a summary, I would recommend that you write a solution. What are the solutions? Solutions are basically where your problems lie. So first of all, a better measure of MSP has to be developed. First problem is huge fiscal burden for the government. So we cannot justify that government burden has to be reduced by saying that farmers can bear this burden. Nobody can bear this burden. So a bridging approach, a middle approach has to be taken. A better measure of MSP, which does not rely towards too much on the Swaminathan Commission report recommendations, and too much on the present. Something middle prices have to be decided. Then risk of undervaluation of crop with low yield, so that is a structural problem that has to be solved by the government. Increase in food inflation, again a structural problem. So adverse impact on India's farm exports, again the policy, agricultural export policy has to look at this. WTO subsidies principle, India has been fighting for Indian farmers, and India needs to take a stronger stand at WTO, which it is already doing. That India's status and India's ground situations are very much different from Western nations. So India is not giving subsidies so that our farmers can become rich. India is giving subsidies so that our farmers can afford basic survival. Then storage and disposal problems, infrastructure, include more cold chain facilities, and that's how you provide that solution. So first of all, price deficiency payment scheme, that is a very, very creative solution. Niti Aayog and economic surveys, multiple times they have recommended that presently you are following the A2 plus FL plus 50% approach. Farmers say that no, it is not covering our cost, and like forget the profits. So many times these bodies have recommended that give additional money to farmers, for example in the form of PM Kisan, or there is this scheme that runs in Haryana, Bhavantar Bharpai Yojana, that whatever cost farmers have incurred which has not been paid back by MSP, a separate scheme pays back for that based on how much crops have been produced. Alright, so the second one, market intervention schemes, they can be launched under which the state government procures perishable commodities, for example, vegetables, fruits, or other perishable commodities which cannot be stored in warehouses, but farmers want to grow them, they are easy to grow, and farmers want to make profits out of them. And minimum assured price should be promised to the farmers for through these market intervention schemes. Then creation of agricultural infrastructure, here we are talking about cold chain facilities, cold storage facilities. Then support to the farmers, producers, organizations, so they have better negotiation skills, and not just the skills, but abilities. They do have the skills, but the ability to negotiate for an individual farmer is not as high as for a farmer producer organization. And the model of Amul can be replicated, the cooperative society model, that can be replicated for other food grains as well. Also, it will lead into the consolidation of land holdings. Right now our land holdings are very small in size. Then the fifth one here is gradual expansion of crops under MSP. We cannot just stop at 22 crops only. We need to expand MSP, and we need to legalize MSP in one form or the other. Some amount of crops or some level of legalization or compulsory efforts, they need to be made in this regard. So that's your conclusion, or I would say way forward. It has been an intense discussion, and I would be very happy to take any inputs that you have from your side. Kindly let me know in the chat section. If you happen to watch this in a recorded format, then kindly post that in the comment section, whatever additions you have from your side to make. I'm again repeating, kindly refer to lecture number 59 of Perspective 360, that is Agri Export Policy, and lecture number 63 of this series, which is regarding food subsidies and why does there is so much opposition against India at WTO. So alright, I'm displaying the question again. Make sure that you post your answers in the comment section in the next 48 hours. Do not delay in posting. Post them as early as you can. The PDF for today's discussion will be available on our Telegram channel tomorrow, the link to which is available in the description. Kindly, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done it yet. If you have any doubts, let me know in the chat or comment section. Send your feedback at hello@edutap.co.in or in the comment section under this video. And you can also contact us for our various courses at this particular number, and we'll be happy to help you out through your examination journey. I wish you all the very best. May God bless you all. May you be, guided towards the right path. And just keep working hard, keep moving ahead, no matter how slow or hard it seems. Just keep going through, keep revising things. Whatever you feel right, just keep doing that. Don't stop. Alright, so for those of you who do not have any doubts, you can sign off right now. I'll see you on Monday. For Monday, we'll have a recorded session. Due to some reasons, I'll not be taking a live session with you. So Mondays and Wednesdays session will be recorded, but everything will be the same. I will be able to reply on the chat side by side, and you can obviously post your comments in the post your doubts in the comment section. I will be resolving them out side by side. So advanced technological interventions for yes, Durga, that's right. So Shitil, last year we exceeded by 100 lakh tons. Yes, absolutely, Shitish. Thanks for the addition. Rohit, hello. Veenu ma'am, thank you. Mostly from Punjab and Haryana. Yes, Durga, that was an absolutely great addition from your side. All right, so no more doubts coming, guys. See you on Monday with another intriguing topic. A lot of RBI notifications, RBI speeches are out, so we'll be taking a lot of important topics in the coming lectures, and there are so many lined up. If you have any recommendations or any topic that you're finding hard to cover, then kindly let me know in the comment section after watching this video. Take care and all the very best. See you on Monday.